Welcome to The Choice to Grow. I'm Scott Schwenk. Through these dialogues, we'll explore fresh perspectives and discover practical tools for navigating a thriving life that adds value wherever we are. I'll introduce you to innovators and creators from across our world who embody what it means to cultivate growing as a way of life. Let's prepare together. Take a deep breath in. Hold the breath briefly as you soften your shoulders and soften the soles of your feet and palms of your hands. Then exhale like you're releasing tension and setting down a heavy burden from every cell. Now let's dive in. Welcome back, everybody, to The Choice to Grow. I'm over the moon. I've been counting the sleeps, and I'm so delighted to share with you my friend, sister, Elena Brower. And I want to tell you a little bit about her background. So she's a mom. She's definitely a mentor, a wildly inspired poet, artist, volunteer, a best-selling author, and host of the Practice You podcast. Elena graduated from Cornell in 1992, designed textiles and apparel for almost a decade before shifting her focus to yoga, meditation, writing, and art. Teaching asana since 1999, studying and practicing Zen meditation since 2020, she received the Buddhist Precepts from Roshi Joan Halifax at Upaya Zen Center in 2023. Now candidate for Buddhist Chaplaincy, Elena is offering her time in hospice and penitentiary settings. Her best-selling journals and books explore stages of life and listening. Her next book, this is a gem, I've seen it, Hold Nothing, is being published by Shambhala Publications in late 2025. Elena's Perceptive Parenting audio course is a key resource for parents. Her signature course, Simplify, serves hundreds in reimagining priorities in order to experience more meaning every day. And she's also the founder of a free global podcast, The Matter of Menopause. Her weekly live yoga practices and meditations are featured on glow.com, that is. She offers retreats and workshops a few times a year, and her spoken word poetry can be heard on Above and Beyond's Flow State albums, for which she's received an RIAA certified gold record.
It's crazy.
For her writing on Don't Leave. Elena works to elevate her bright futures for girls, women, and children through her support for Girls on Fire leaders on the inside and free food kitchens. So I'm just going to say a little bit because we're both so excited, but This woman is one of my favorite humans on the planet. We were connected years ago by our mutual friend, Alejandro Junger, when Elena was opening Vira Yoga in Soho, right next to Dean and DeLuca and around the corner from Equinox, and would bring me in there to lead breath work rather than her Shavasana when I would come to town at the end of classes. And we just got on like a house on fire over email way back before there were much to do with cell phones or any of that business. So without further ado, hi, Elena.
So happy to be here with you. What a treat. I'm pouring tea and I'm so happy to just sink in with you right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now you're fresh from an experience at your Zen Center.
I am fresh from an experience.
Which is probably a daily, I could say you're fresh from an experience, but what's this most recent happening for you there?
Just got out of a practice period. So that means I was in the Zen schedule for almost 3 weeks. Left a little bit early. I had a dear friend who lost her house in the fires there in LA. She came with me. She got a little bit sick, so I took her home to my house, which is very close to the Zen Center, and just tended to her. The options were to send her to the, ER without me, or to just go home with her. That's what I did. But we had about 2.5, almost 3 weeks there, 5 to 7 hours a day of sitting, facing the wall. It was my 4th or 5th practice period, I think, over the last 5 years. And it was, as always, very helpful to see the habit patterns and energy in my mind and to befriend myself a little more, certainly, and kindly.
For those who have sat in your classes, and I know many of them over the years, it could sound surprising for some who don't know you well on a personal level to hear you say working at befriend or showing up at more of the befriending of your mind and be like, well, she seemed like she had that in spades 20 years ago. And this is a nuance about choosing to grow that I'm curious what you might say about.
I think all of us have these sort of phases, and you could say, chapter, turn the page, onion, peel the layer. I feel like my entire life is sort of an editing process and project, where every time I go and sit there, I come up with some other thing that I can leave behind, whether it's an idea or an opinion or some sort of righteousness. And it is similar to peeling away the layers of an onion, but it's like literally there is no onion left. When this project is done, I'm disappearing and preparing for my death. And I'm only 54, but that's the project.
It's almost so on the nose, it makes me want to burst out into laughter. There's a question I ask every guest, usually not until the very end. And it's based on my favorite quote from Shunryu Suzuki Roshi, who opened the Zen Center of San Francisco in the 1960s.
That's the lineage in which I find myself.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
I'm feeling that through my whole body.
Yes, I'm going to Tasahara in June in a few weeks.
Oh, I visited the outside of it. I believe I was there, unless I'm confusing it. There's a Zen monastery on Sausalito at the top of the mound. That's not, is it?
I think Tasahara is, I'm not super familiar with Northern California, but Tasahara is south of San Francisco, really like down a 4-mile dirt road. And he built it with a few students back in the 70s. And it's basically the first American Zen monastery, and certainly the first that allowed women and men to practice together, families to practice together. It's got a storied history, and I just can't wait to be there and just to feel it and sit in the zendo, see where he was giving talks.
The thing that comes to my colorful imagination most and first when I hear the name Tasahara is their cookbook.
Of course, that's like how
their food is epic.
Ed Brown, the author of the cookbook, who's family and friends with so many of the teachers that I love from this lineage. He basically gave all of the proceeds from the cookbook to help build and sustain Tasahara. So it's a very rich story. I'm in the middle of reading. I finished Crooked Cucumber, which is about Shunryu Suzuki.
Still reading it.
So good. I had to ration it during the practice period when I was allowed to read. And then Shoes Outside the Door by Michael Downing is a scandal and also very helpful to fill out all the blank spaces in the context that is Zen Center and Tasahara. And because it's the lineage from which I come, one of Suzuki's direct students, Catherine Thanis, was my teacher's teacher's teacher. And her writing just blows my mind. She was also a yoga teacher and also an artist. So I'm very, very connected to her and keep her writing close. Yeah.
So Roshi's quote.
Thank you. Sorry for that.
That I first heard, not at all. The first heard from Adyashanti many, many years ago in Palo Alto at a gathering, a satsang with him, my first.
Right.
And he's brought this out many times, this particular quote. Suzuki Roshi says, death is certain. The time is not.
Right.
What is the most important thing?
Yeah.
And I ask every guest that.
What a great question. Wow. You know what else he said? And then I'll answer. Somebody came close to him when one of his very close students came close to him. You'll read this. Just as he was about to die, within a few days of his death. He was way too young when he died, but he got really bad liver, some kind of very obscure liver cancer. And he had a very hard life. And I think there was some anger and some frustration at the way his life went personally, not professionally. And the student was really upset, in some way expressed that. And Suzuki Roshi said, "Do not be sad for me. I know who I am." I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like that. Really touched me, like took my breath away. I had to stop for a while, cry, like, isn't that everything? That we
Yeah.
just know who we are so that we're not afraid to die.
Yeah.
There's nothing else we can take with us. My friend who lost her whole house had like collections of all this fancy everything, shoes, clothes, Japanese ceramics and teaware. And she realized a few days into the practice period that she was there to get in touch with the fact that she bought all those things and invested in all that beauty because she couldn't grasp the beauty and the worth in her own being. And she started to feel that while she was sitting facing the wall and realized why the fire had happened to her. For her, whatever you like to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty epic.
And those of you who are new to listening to my voice or Elena's voice, maybe you picked this up from our voices. I feel inclined to say this to you as a listener. If you have gone through some big loss of people or things or money, we're not minimizing the experience of loss. In fact, both Elena and I have lost our mothers not far apart in years, and other people we care deeply about, and experiences of life, and grieved with each other and grieved for each other. So when we're saying a very, very exalted perspective of recognizing the fire happened for me in this way, it is not to minimize the process of actually going through grieving and recognizing the meaning we invested in various things that are now showing their temporary nature to us.
Yeah. It's a really good point. I don't have better words for it.
Yeah. These dialogues are something that I have been called to for years, and it took finding out, knowing more of who and what I am to say yes and do it. But the inspiration of being able to sit with people who are capable of listening beyond the known without dismissing the known, and together allow something to come forward through dialogue. And I love the definition I heard from David Bohm, which is to discover together.
There was during the practice period, somebody mentioned this during one of our study sessions. When I have a rakusu that I sewed, I took the precepts a few years ago. And
what is a rakusu for those who don't know?
Sure. Rakusu it's a bib-esque looking piece of fabric that's actually many pieces of fabric hand sewn together that represents the robes of the Buddha. The robes of liberation. And we sew one over the course of a couple of years while preparing to take the Buddhist Precepts, a series of vows that one takes to keep oneself organized, the boundaries that afford us a greater freedom, if you will.
Oof.
And each stitch, you're meant to take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And one of my friends was I don't know how we got onto the topic, but she said, there was this really awesome translation, reinterpretation of those three Refuge is the three jewels. I take refuge in the Buddha of my own nature. I take refuge in the Sangha. We wake up together. I take refuge in the Dharma. Everything teaches us. I take refuge in the Sangha. We wake up together. Right. Just changes the whole thing. It's like, yeah.
All of it.
Changes the whole thing. I'm going to say it again. I take refuge in the Buddha of my own nature. I take refuge in the Dharma. Everything teaches us. I take refuge in the Sangha. We wake up together. Certainly been true for you and me for many years now, 2 decades.
Yeah. To varying degrees of recognition of what's happening while it was happening, or in retrospect.
Word, or lack of thereof.
Or lack of. Yeah, somebody else has to point it out. I mean,
yeah.
I think it's kind of smartly designed that many of the people I get to privilege to interact with don't necessarily recognize, they may know themselves at a really foundational level, but they don't necessarily recognize the impact their existence or consciousness is having on others through them until others tell them. And it seems to be somewhat widespread. There's a basic understanding, but the depth and breadth and width of that impact, and I think that's so that we don't think it's us individually.
Because it never is.
Right? Oh, let's go there. I want to touch something that's really tickles my heart when I was knowing we were getting closer to this. So when I met you, you were one of the most integrated Anusara yoga teachers. And not that you were the only one, but certified Anusara teachers, if they walked near my mat, everyone that I worked with, and you for sure, my body would spontaneously and noticeably find greater alignment without being told anything or touched.
Well, that speaks to your studentship. Not to us. I mean, you can say anything you like and assume anything, but I think that speaks to who you are and how you integrate the teachings less to your teachers.
So you had a whole life before Anusara, your study. I didn't realize till I read your bio that you were designing textiles. I didn't know until I started seeing your paintings during quarantine that you were a very trained and wonderful painter. But my point I want to get to is there's a great teacher, and I hope to have him on here sometime, A.H. Almaas. And I've been listening to some of his work, the Diamond Approach.
Yep.
And he speaks about having his first realization was a non-dual realization. Then about every 2 years, without expecting it, and thinking he'd already completed what there was to complete, he'd have another realization that was different. So he had non-dual realizations, he had dualistic realizations. He had ones that were both and ones that were neither, and ones that couldn't be spoken. And he articulates, I think it's in Runaway Realization, for many, and you can correct this for me, the end of the Zen path is no self and the recognition of emptiness and clear light.
Yeah.
The Sufis, it's unity and love.
Right.
So from his perspective, and mine as well, everybody's right, and all realizations do not lead to the same place.
Well, unity is no self. Having come from, I basically took the path that the teachings have taken from India through China, India, Tantra.
Right.
China, Taoism, Confucianism, touches it, becomes Chan, and then it gets to Japan and it becomes Zen. And having started with the Indian teachings from India, I don't say no to anything. It's all true. There was a great quote that came across my field yesterday from a book called Being Time. I'm not going to remember it, so I'm going to see if I can find it. I put it on my desktop. There we go. Okay, I'll pull it up. Being Time by Shinshu Roberts. It's from Dogen. Basically, it's an interpretation of a part of Dogen's Shobogenzo. Big body of work. Engaging with an open mind is inclusive, skillful response. When we are totally engaged with each moment, we stop pitting ourselves against something we perceive as outside and in need of control. This is the intimacy of no self. Engaging with an open mind is inclusive, skillful response. When we are totally engaged with each moment, we stop pitting ourselves against something we perceive as outside and in need of control. This is the intimacy of no self. So this is really the teachings of Dogen from the 1200s. He was alive from 1200 to 1253 or so. And that no self, and even just this mere little tiny humble training facing the wall for many hours gives me a little taste. But I don't think I'll get there until I'm dying, if I'm lucky. I sort of have this sense of all the boundaries are disappearing. The periphery of my body is disappearing. I can sort of feel where the clothing is touching my body in certain moments. And then like I disappear from inside of these garments. It's such an intimacy. I'm no longer here. I have no agenda. And that's the sort of, I don't know, I remember walking around Guru Mai's ashram in South Fallsburg and feeling this quality of like just so much love. It's the same feeling that I'm getting facing the wall, although it's a little more, collected, let's say. But it's no different. It's not a different feeling. Call it whatever you want.
That. Having participated in the work of Donnie Epstein since I was 22,
the best,
through Network Spinal, it's called now, 6 doctors all over the country, and worked with him directly in some of his premier work. He and my main doctor have hammered me when I've been asked and said, I can't find a self. And I remember being at the microphone with Donnie at a program in the fall, and he said, you have unbound energy in spades. Why have a body if you're not going to bind it to something? Like if you're not going to bind your energy to something. So there's something I've been like noodling around. One of Sally Kempton's good friends spoke prolifically about the unique self. There's a sense I have that there's something that endures that's not historical and that's unique like a snowflake, but has no ownership. What's your experience so far?
It's kind of as I described. Like I just don't
exist.
I gave birth to a kid. He's awesome. I feel like that's done. Going into a second year of school, by the way, 6
And yet you go to his wedding. Let's say he's going to have a wedding.
Most likely.
To somebody, right? Most likely he's going to have a wedding and you're going to go and then feelings arise.
Right.
Or God forbid your partner goes before you go and you're lucid and you're with it. There's going to be feelings. Something is feeling. And it's not just the body. I don't have the sense.
No, most of what I feel anyway, according to my findings facing the wall, is kind of habit. Like, oh, I'm supposed to feel like that. I'm supposed to be sad right now. I'm supposed to be angry right now. I'm supposed to be exasperated, whatever it is. Like, as I let go of all of these assumptions about how I should feel, technically, based on history and tradition in my society and my upbringing, the color of my skin and so forth.
Yeah.
I suddenly am just like, oh, nothing actually is determining anything. What if I just let go of that and that?
Yeah.
And that. And that? Now, of course, if I'm standing at my kid's wedding and I've got a dress for it and I'm psyched to see my child happy, like that's wonderful.
Yeah.
But also that, I think the daily morning practice, I sit at 7 a.m. and let it all go so I can start my day with a fresh perspective.
Do you sense there's something that's enduring and unique while somehow being one with everything? And it's
No.
not a historical personality. You don't? Okay.
No.
Okay.
That's the thing I'm really trying to get away from, actually. Legacy, enduring, unique, special, like all of those things. Oh, I don't want to be judgmental or spend any time berating, chastising myself, but that has been historically my problem.
Huh.
Yeah. If there were to be a problem, like just stop all of that nonsense and just do what is needed. My practice is for the benefit of all beings. So how am I doing what is needed? And all of the service that I'm doing, that's the best I can do right now.
What I'm hearing, what it seems like I'm hearing is there is an expression that's unique, but it doesn't need to reflect on itself. It doesn't need to think about itself. It doesn't need to name itself.
Yes.
So while it may be enduring and somewhat like a snowflake, it doesn't need an identity of any sort. So it can actually move in all directions with nimbleness. Whichever way that the biosphere is unfolding.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, your teacher comes from a long experience maybe, of activism.
So Roshi Joan Halifax is one of my teachers. She's the teacher from whom I took the precepts, received the precepts. She is a force on this planet. She has sat for thousands of hours with the dying, with the folks on death row. She has served in the most remote mountains of the Himalayas in Nepal and brought in medical care, a whole medical team.
After the earthquakes.
Decades she's been doing this.
Yeah.
She founded Upaya Zen Center. And she is a force. And it's interesting, she does often teach, come here, do the practice, stop making things, stop working, stop doing anything. And yet it's hard for her to do that very thing. We always teach her. But we most need to learn. The teacher with whom I am studying closely, her name is Nanette Overly. Her Dharma name is Manshin Tenen, but Manshin on the Upaya podcast. And her Dharma talks are well worth your time. Manshin Nanette Overly. And her teacher is Eugene Bush. His teacher is Catherine Thanis, who I was, I'll show you this human.
Yeah.
I'm studying a lot. She has also a book of her talks out. I don't know if you can
Grass
see
writing.
Grass writings. This you can only get through Santa Cruz Zen Center. Anyway, the sort of blend of teachers who have influenced me in this realm of Zen Buddhism are a combination of that activism of which you speak and this artistic, embodied householder Zen that really matters to me, and it has altered the way I look, listen, am in the world with my family, with the work that I'm doing, whether it's creative or service work, writing. I'm so thankful for the teachings because it's really helped me to see I am not actually here. The sort of bodhisattva energy of all of this is, what can I do to benefit all beings? How does what I'm doing serve? And that's kind of the driving force behind my work now.
One of the many things that was presenting as I was contemplating last night, our conversation, was looking at ferocity. I don't know if I saw that word freshly in your forthcoming book, Holding Nothing, but ferocity as opposed to unprocessed aggression or hostility issues. that can be masquerading as, yes, I'm standing up for something and I'm protesting this, or I'm an activist for this. But I'm interested in the ferocity that's not personal and therefore skillful. Like, it's not coming from my personal, I don't like this and I like that. These are my people, those are not my people. It's not coming from taking sides. It's coming from recognition of what is necessary in the moment.
Yeah. An unmitigated, unprescribed, appropriate response is how Roshi Joan contextualizes it. That's it. That's the teaching of a lifetime, according to one of the sort of koans in Zen. What is the teaching of a lifetime? An appropriate response.
Oh, y'all, I encourage you to re-listen to this multiple times, this conversation, because there's so much subtlety here. I will be re-listening, and I cannot encourage you enough to get Roshi Joan's book, Standing at the Edge.
Yeah, that was my next suggestion. And also, A Fruitful Darkness is a really great, one of my favorite books. If I had to bring 5 books with me to a remote situation, it would be that.
Fruitful Darkness.
A Fruitful Darkness has to do with her travels when she was in her 40s and 50s. Really epic stories. She honors every person in such a true, full way. Standing at the edge is important, as you said, because it brings us into the 5 edge states that she identifies. Among them, respect, empathy, and altruism, and how you can go over the edge into pathological versions of all of these wonderful virtues. I interviewed her for my podcast too. It's actually a worthwhile listen, short.
Excellent. I would love to see her here at some point. In particular, the thing that I've been chewing on since that book came out and we were reading it, I don't know, close to simultaneously during COVID, was the polarities of, or seeming possible polarities of, compassion and empathy. And I've brought it out and shared it in many different ways. My best recollection, or at least how I experience it currently, is empathy shows me why to care.
Right.
And the compassion shows me how.
Yeah, that's cool. I have a couple of perspectives. Number one, I also want to bring in Judith Lassiter. Judith Hansel Lassiter is a teacher of mine too. She, although is one of the best yoga teachers mechanically and emotionally of our whole time, she also teaches NVC, nonviolent communication. And I have had the privilege of teaching with her, sort of, let's say, just being her intern while she presents the course and doing the tech. And I love doing that job. And she teaches that empathy is understanding independent of agreement.
Wow, I've never heard that.
I know.
Wow.
It's so good. Because, I understand why our current political leader is the way that he is because of his upbringing. I actually understand it. I don't agree. So I can have empathy for that human. Terrible as it is going. Compassion, back to Roshi Joan Halifax, is made of all these non-compassion elements she teaches, like care and respect and dignity and integrity. And yes, empathy leads to compassion. Sometimes compassion leads to empathy. It's hard to say which came first in my understanding, but I'm still pulling these things apart and studying them.
Same.
Yeah.
What I walked away with was that the pieces about ending up over empathizing and ending up in what she calls empathic distress.
Yes.
And then not being able to be helpful. That there's no such thing as compassion fatigue, but there's empathic distress. Like, I have mirror neurons from head to toe in my body that can pick up what a plant, an animal, or another human is feeling.
That's right.
If I tune to it too much, I'm useless to them, and I'm actually becoming a suck of energy. Whereas if I can touch, and I think it's something I'll forever be exploring and a student of, real compassion for me is not personal. It's not my compassion, it's compassion. And until I've emptied out enough of my attachment to my historical sense of self, that's just an idea I have about compassion.
It's well said. Can improve upon that. Compassion is constantly present. Are we tuning in or not? It's very good. Thank you for that. Yeah.
I'm very present with that. One frame, all that's happening here is just tea. Just tea.
It's quite tasty. I wish you were here.
I almost can smell it and taste it.
You can taste little tiny rosebuds and little tangerine peels, and then the white tea as well. The little wild roses are really putting it right over the edge here. And it's afternoon here, so I wouldn't normally drink any other kind of tea at this hour. This is perfect. What a treat to be together.
So the question, death is certain, but time is not. What is the most important thing?
Yeah. I think love. No matter what arena of my life I sort of scan, when you asked me that question earlier, it just came up with the capital L, love. Whether it has to do with writing, family, friendships, painting, practice, love. Love of self, love of other, love of earth. I feel like there's a quote from Muji like this. There's a song or something where he's in the background. I love Muji so much too. Yeah, that's my final answer.
What is prosperity?
That's a great question. Wow. I'm learning that prosperity is actually a commitment to practice. Yeah. The minute I lose touch with my practice, I lose touch with that concept. Prosperity, I'm not talking about like material, even a little bit. It's really, gosh, when I upkeep my practice, which I have now for a few years, just 7 a.m. Come on. That's it.
Come rain or shine.
Rain or shine. I feel prosperous. I feel prosperous in my relationship with James. We're going on almost 11, 12 years.
Wow.
I know. He is getting more delicious by the day, like mentally, emotionally, so holistically growing. So happy for him and also happy for me.
Yeah.
It's really
everybody's
good.
winning.
And
he gets you to reflect it back to him in case he forgets.
It could be that he also has a way of reflecting back to me too. I just need to give credit where credit is due.
Of course he does. How else could somebody be with you if they didn't have some prowess?
Yes, he's so cool. So nice, so kind.
Dang.
But yeah, I lose touch with all of the forms of prosperity, creativity, relationally, creatively, relationally, in practice. If I don't practice, if I don't really keep up with it, I can feel it. Now,
one of my very dearest friends a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, was having lunch, and I had just come from an extended practice. I had just taught, and so I was in an extended practice to metabolize the experience after teaching.
Yes.
Um, I'll just say this for the listener. When people give initiations, for sure, empowerments, definitely, energetic practices or advice, there's an energy exchange. Karma is exchanged from this particular view. And somebody's got to metabolize it. And it manifests differently in different teachers. So I've been taught, and I trust it, to just sit down, practice. And my friend said to me, I didn't give him all that context, just said, oh, I've just come from a long practice. And he said, people talk about practice, practice, practice. I think it's really important to do practice and then go out and live your life. And I said, I totally hear that. And I said, I don't know that I've communicated what I mean when I say I'm doing practice. What might you say you mean? Because from over here, your life is practice, except when you forget. Like your moments, your small moments are practice.
Well, I don't even forget. I'm just choosing.
I got it. It's just fair to say.
But,
What
well,
do we mean by practice?
practice is definitely the sitting practice and not doing anything for those 45 to 60 minutes of a day. Most days even if I'm home, I'll do 40 minutes of sitting and then I'll do the liturgy with the Zen Center, over.
Is that repeating mantras? Sort of? What is that?
Liturgy is service. There's a kokyo. There's a doshi. There's kokyo. There's somebody who's the priest who's doing the prostrations on behalf of all of us. There are all of us doing prostrations as well, full down to the floor, raising up the feet of the Buddha. And each day there is a chant, the Enmei Juku Kanan Gyo, the Makahanya, the Heart Sutra. These are all, it's on the Jewel Mirror Awareness. All of these chants are directed toward certain remembrances, let's say. And we chant the chant, do 3 more bows. On the full moon and the new moon, it's a special different liturgy, really sweet retaking of the vows on the new moon and kind of celebrating on the full moon. Very celebratory. It's one of those moments where it's about 20 minutes of your life and it completely wipes the slate completely clean and it becomes a completely new day, new opportunity. So you could say it's mantras, sure, but they're usually sort of longer form chants. And it's pretty easy to find them if you're listening and you're interested. If you go to upaya.org and just, prowl around and find the liturgy reader in any one of the programs. And most everything is by donation. Some of the programs are paid. But that's how I started. I started with Upaya online during lockdown. So I was watching everything and practicing in my living room.
I remember because you were dancing with Sally was still alive at that point and you hadn't yet taken the full step into Upaya.
That's right.
And you said, well, maybe it's time. Maybe I'll finally start studying with Sally.
Right. It was
And
that or
Joan,
that.
you got infected with the Joan Bliss virus.
You know what it was? I felt mainly because they're a mile away from here, from where I now live. And I thought I really want a physical community, a place where I can go. So that became the priority. And I feel great about that, although I feel like I did miss a little bit of Sally. She's carried through you and Uma and Elizabeth, Rosa, of course. But I wish I could have kind of cloned myself and done both.
The part of me that really feels that in my body is the part of me that would pay a lot of something to have just 1 more hour with her.
there's some like hint of her voice saying, "You're having it right now."
I know. Yeah. That's so Sally. So Sally.
Ah,
But that's just it. Like, I guess we'll open that curio cabinet portion. Your mom, my mom,
mm,
Sally, many others that we have loved deeply, have been loved deeply by, have been shown more about what love is through,
yeah,
who are not in their bodies.
yeah.
And there's not a day that goes by that I don't feel it.
Someone sent me a quote I posted about one of my service assignments this past week was to go into a school where one of the administrators had died somewhat unexpectedly, not for her family, but for the people in her life professionally. She was quite ill and didn't really share it with the people that she worked with at the school. So the kids who would walk by the main office every day and see her and get hugged by her and get loved by her were very moved. And I got assigned to go into the school as part of this program here in Santa Fe where we facilitate grief groups for kids and families. And I spent the very first 2 hours of the school day with this one gal who, 14, black peeling nails, beautiful pools of blue eyes, really messy hair that every single one of my friends would pay money for. I listened to her for like 30 minutes, and all she was talking about was love. It just kept coming back to love, how much she loved her, how much she felt loved by this woman who passed. Let's call her Miss A, who passed. And she felt so much love. And I wrote about the fact that this revealed to both of us as we made an altar for Miss A, as we wrote a letter of thanks to Miss A who had passed, which was very helpful and soothing for this gal. We realized that love was present. So I wrote about this. And this is what's true with both of us too, and also for Sally. And someone sent me this quote from Donna Ashworth. It's called Love Came First. And it goes like this. It's right on my screen because I just got it. You don't move on after loss, but you must move with. You must shake hands with grief. Welcome her in, for she lives with you now. Pull her a chair at the table and offer her comfort. She is not the monster you first thought her to be. She is love. Grief is love, and she will walk with you now and stay with you now peacefully if you let her. And on the days when your anger is high, remember why she came, who she represents. Remember, grief came to you, my friend, because love came first. So beautiful.
We dialogued a bit about this when I was on the Practice You podcast.
Yes.
And my mom had just recently passed.
Yeah.
I think maybe it was a year or something like this. But I actually realized that I love being with this. I feel so real and alive being with grief.
That's right.
In this way. I would say that there are definitely milestones along the path of grief that I could become more, befriend more. Like the early place of grief when the shock for somebody is still really fresh. Maybe there was a very, I don't know what to say, like, something horrible, we could call horrible, that precipitated the loss.
Yeah.
And I find that grief, no matter where it is in the stations, is like, it's like truth serum.
A lot of the book that I wrote prior to Hold Nothing, which is just a collection of poetry, is about that. Is about that the majesty and horror coexisting simultaneously of grief. And like my mom passed, and I was both, quite stoic and ready for it. Also devastated.
Except in the Yoga Glow office, the moment you got on the phone with her, when a few of us were in there and the call came in and you found out for the very first time. I will never forget the freedom of your wail.
Yeah.
That you let happen. You let happen.
Gosh, remember that.
Oh,
that was when
like
it was Ryan and Logan, right?
Yeah.
In that first studio where the office was just, we were like a bunch of kids
crammed in there.
Yeah. We didn't even have a plan. We were just recording.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I had totally put that out of my mind. It's so nice to remember that. Real and raw indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have so many of these moments, like I consider you a colleague and a friend, and yet at the same time, I think this is the best of my friends. I can think of so many moments over 20 some odd years of knowing you here where there's something I picked up that I've never, ever forgotten. And I can think of probably at least literally 10 of them right now. I remember sitting in the side room, the extra room you purchased for Vira Yoga, where you were doing weekly Gurdjieff readings and contemplations and conversations. And I was in there and I remember you reading something that to this day I tell people what he said. In any moment, there is a theater of selves, all presenting as the true I. Verify the eyes. Which I is speaking, and is that really you?
Gosh. Thank you. Cut to me in my 50s, 20 years later, facing the wall, having the same exact experience. Who is here? Who is speaking? Who is having this set of opinions? It's very helpful for a human raised in this society where everything is comparative and judgmental. Very good. Thank you for that.
My core teacher, my Sri Vidya Guru Parvati, often says when she's giving teachings, the mind learns by taking things apart, the heart learns by putting them back together.
Mark Nepo, I recently saw this, said, I'm paraphrasing, we've become, the sounds of things falling apart are so compelling and loud, but the sound of things coming together is very subtle. You can barely hear it. Sort of relates. I love it so much.
I love that.
I know. Let me see if
I really love that. It's like the what comes when you said the sound was like the sound of a breath.
Yeah,
like even subtler than that.
Quote. We become just knowing everything is, no, that's not it. It's something like we become so attuned when things are falling apart to that very loud sound, but when they come together, it's far more difficult to hear and to acknowledge. Yeah, like that.
It actually feels like this is the practice that's been having me and that I'm choosing to attune to in this time. I mean, at this recording, not unlike the last 8 years or 6 years in certain regards, or hundreds of years and from a wider view, but recent times, there's a lot happening in the global situation, economically, ecologically, humanity, animals, so on. Like there's not a domain of life that seems without rupture somewhere that's quite visible and loud. I've taken myself off the news entirely. I got a new iPhone, then it did not install the news, and I have not installed it. When I'm at Equinox, I do not look at the televisions except rare exceptions. I go somewhere else.
Yep.
I know that for me, there are people whose job it is to stay attuned to the news in certain ways and have maybe hopefully protocols to work with it and sleep at night. That is not my offering. I know who I am. My offering is not to tell people what to think,
Yeah.
but to offer possibilities for learning how to think.
Yeah.
And how to see and how to love as I continue to practice. But like putting myself in the din or the clamor of things falling apart, I feel like is missing the power of what is even allowing things to fall apart, that created the things in the first place, and that has never dissipated any of its own energy in building, in falling apart, or any of those illusions. Hopefully that wasn't too abstract.
No, I fully understand what you're saying. And I think it's important that some of us are willing to hold that. Otherwise,
I mean, I want it to get more real outside of just when somebody gets the idea of hearing about manifesting money. I want it to get more real for people, like interesting, like juicy, to care that it is real, that the predominant energy running through my nervous system is shaping my life and the collective.
right.
And that is our biggest opportunity, and where more power is for making change. It just might not look like instant coffee in terms of how the outer world is affected in the timeline.
I like that. Yeah, there isn't, for me, there's no need to have a television. I haven't had one in 30 years.
Mm.
We watch really old films on the laptop at night, James and I. He's taught me how to watch films, everything from before basically the early 60s, I think it was, when the code changed. And it was like the first violent film, I think, came out.
Huh.
I forget who it was about. It was a Western. And before that, it's a very different kind of art form. And after that, it changed completely. So we watch old Japanese films and Czech New Wave films and French films. And we have the best.
Wow.
You don't need a TV.
I also have these visuals all of a sudden that are not movies, but I see you two almost like ballroom dancing throughout the house with the Sonos just,
That's sweet.
going.
That's so sweet. Yeah, we really, we've come a long way in our communication. NBC has helped us a lot. We're actually now starting to make notes about when we have a successful interaction, because someday we want to teach healthy relating. I think we're doing a really good job.
I've got an episode coming out of this. Well, I'm dating this episode by saying this, but like next week with a guy, I think if you haven't come across him, that is his work. His one thing is conscious communication and doing repair when there's a rupture. He's Australian. And I stumbled into him on Instagram and have been following for some time. And I listened to his first reel. I told him this, and I knew right away, this guy's living this.
Yeah.
You just hear it in the sound of his voice. James Gill. He goes by the moniker Fish since he was a kid because of the last name Gill.
Okay.
James Fish Gill.
Okay.
And he says we need to remember 4 things. If there's 2 of us, we need to remember 4 things, and then we've got what we need. There's your very real longing, your very real pain, and my very real longing and my very real pain. And if I can really make room for all of that, there's room for conscious communication, and rupture becomes a glorious opportunity for deeper intimacy.
Easier said than done, but yes. And
yeah.
In our experience, the magic of nonviolent communication and having this understanding independent of agreement starts with ourselves, must be installed within ourselves, this very, very conscious habit, consistent habit of giving myself empathy. How very human of me to feel this way. And then in communication with somebody else, it's only mentioning, this is hard, what I'm feeling. I still screw it up all the time. I just did this morning. Instead of you're being a jerk, you're saying this, you're doing that. Like, that's just not allowed. It is. When I saw you do that, I felt this way. My need for this was not met. I wonder if we could do it over. I wonder if we could do it differently. And, make a conscious request. So at no point am I saying what he's doing wrong.
Yeah.
Just sharing how it feels in my body.
And you're holding it while you're talking about it. You're not just dumping it on somebody else going, you hold this.
That's right.
Because I'm curious your thoughts about this, if you've experienced any of this. I have definitely experienced people unwittingly weaponizing nonviolent communication.
I don't know about that, but I can
controlling others.
Yeah, I can see where it could go south. I imagine, as with any great practice.
Right. But what do you think the sweet sauce is that keeps it alive, real, and empathetic?
Just being willing to give, according to Judith, if I've learned anything from her, it's you must empathize within, must give yourself empathy first. Then you can start to feel, I can have empathy for myself in this moment of total, whatever it is, grief, devastation, frustration. I can start to feel this empathy for somebody else. I can start to have an understanding of somebody else's plight and process.
Have you bumped into Daniel P. Brown's work? He was a lineage holder of Tibetan Buddhism, a translator of Mahamudra and Dzogchen texts, and for 35 years, associate professor at Harvard in psychology. So he ran a lot of research studies on meditators.
Wow.
So a number of the teachers that I work with in the integral world, in the stages community, were his students for a long time. And one of his most important contributions to humanity is this thick tome between him and someone named David Elliott called Healing Attachment Disturbances in Adults. And they have proven in their research, by healing attachment disturbances, they've been able to heal personality disorders like borderline narcissism and so on. And these are 5 things that must be present when there's healthy attachment. And so when you talk about empathizing, I'm now cycle through each of these things and like as though I'm holding another. So number 1 is safety and protection.
Yeah.
Number 2 is attunement. I see you see me. I know you know me. 3 is soothing and comfort. 4 is expressed delight. And 5 is support and encouragement for your best self, our best self, to come online.
Beautiful.
So getting in the mirror, I mean, I brush my teeth in the mirror. I put on skin cream in the mirror. There's all these moments and reflective surfaces to go and just sink into those. Get like habitually sinking into them. Then I'm able to I'm not wondering when I start to rupture with somebody, let me first give this here so that they can overflow and be in the space.
Yeah.
And
So
I fall
beautiful.
down all the time.
Yeah.
I want to mention one other part of this. There's 3 pillars to healing the attachment disturbances. Number 1 is ideal parent figure meditation.
Fun.
Right?
Story.
So you imagine in real time, like right now, and you could try this, listener, imagine if totally enlightened, totally attuned parent figures were sitting right there, however far close. They know, you don't have to tell them a thing. Maybe they lay hands, maybe they don't, but they're there giving you those 5 things, those 5 healthy attachments, radiating it like the sunshine. That's number 1. And that can happen through the field of consciousness. It can happen through deity practice for some people.
Yeah.
Instead of imagining an actual parent energy or a humanoid. There's lots of ways to do it. Number 2, developing greater and greater metacognitive capacities, the ability to witness my thinking and my emotions as they're happening.
Face the wall.
So I can course correct, face the wall. And number 3, developing greater and greater verbal and nonverbal collaborative skills.
Verbal and nonverbal collaborative skill. This is cool. This is cool. Today, James was talking about something and I was having the experience of frustration. I was feeling exasperated. I felt like he was talking about it a lot. And I said something in nonviolent fashion about it. I moved on. And I could feel that he was like a little touched. He was like a little hurt by what I'd said. And so like 5 or 6 minutes later, we're eating together, breakfast, brunch. And I said, and in light of all that I just said, Jimmy, if you want to keep talking about it, I'm cool with that. It seems important to you. I was so thankful.
Wow.
I know, it was so sweet. And it was like a very, very, small leap for me to take. And he really felt seen and accepted. Oh, it was just so damn sweet. What can I say? I was very proud of us.
It's so curious to me. I'm a relational creature, I feel, very relational creature.
Mm-hmm.
And this paradox, I feel like it's a paradox. I feel like it's a face the wall paradox. Solve it in a lifetime or 20. Like, don't seek, Scott, don't seek any resources from another human being and learn how to receive and give them.
That's right.
Like fulfill from source, fulfill from reality,
Mm-hmm.
heal from reality, pick up the little boy, the teenager, the angsty 20-something, and so on. Pick him up, hold him in those 5 qualities, but don't expect it from anybody else, but also learn how to share in those with other people and go.
It's a very beautiful process, this being human. If you're willing to sort of give up all the opinions and judgments.
How much of that is a function of age do you see, and are you seeing people in their younger years who are not having it a peak state of what we're talking about, but they're actually like it's like a baseline way they're able to be? Are you seeing that in the younger generations?
I just really am most close with my kid and some of his good friends, and they're good people. They're taking other people into consideration. They're really aware of others. And, I've seen them struggle with a couple of friends who've gone off the rails. I've seen them be too harsh at times. As they get older, it gets better. Same with us, as we get older,
Gets
we
better.
get softer. Think about my dad, how and who he was in his 20s and 30s to how and who he is now in his 70s, almost 80, like totally different. Same human, but totally different. So many
I'm thinking of that recent book you wrote. Maybe it's older than I thought, but like Softening Time.
That's the collected poems. Yeah, he's in there.
Yeah, but that like just that title is a koan.
Yeah.
Like time is doing softening so that time doesn't pummel me. Like all these, there's something about the possibility of really showing up for life and aging.
Yeah. Getting older, I feel there are these inflection points where I've looked in the mirror. I just got pictures taken. I was teaching at an event for Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, and she had this incredible photographer there, and his name is Peter Hurley, and he takes pictures, basically this very, very bright light bank, boom, 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 and you're in there, and he takes your picture, and there's nothing between you and the camera. And this is one of those points. There have been many others where I look at myself and I'm just like, wow, I'm getting older and older by the day. I promised my mother I wouldn't change my face at all. I wouldn't do anything to it. And so I'm not doing anything to it. I just like spend a lot of money on skincare, like blue chamomile balm from May Lindstrom, but
No snail cream?
yeah, like that. I just can't do anything else. I promised. And
Right.
I'm looking at these pictures, these little moments in time, these inflection points, as I said, where better get used to it and get cool with it. We're just getting older. And the minute I'm able to just go, oh, yeah, I'm still here. and I'm older and I'm smarter and I'm softer. I'm more open. Things are more meaningful. Like suddenly everything is fine. And I'm seeing some friends just go this sideways. Like, oh my God, I'm getting older. I'm just going to give up. Or, oh my God, I'm getting older. I'm just going to do every possible intervention to not. And I think the real task is just to accept it, don't argue with reality, and uphold our dignity as much as we can.
A few years ago, you and I were talking from time to time, and probably you and other people, about eldering, and that was your word.
Yeah. So sweet. I do feel like that's what I'm just getting good at it. Like I'm just learning how to do this.
Just getting warmed up.
Just getting warmed up.
That's how I feel. I'm just getting warmed up. I feel like every birthday, I would say to Sally when she was still alive, I feel like I'm just now fit to start the path.
Yeah, it keeps being true. And then I'm like, oh, the next one comes. I'm like, no, I'm almost ready.
Yeah, almost.
I'm almost ready. It's so
Getting
sweet.
ready to get ready.
It's so sweet.
I hope I never lose that. I don't think I will. I don't think it's an accidental thing. I think it's something that can, like a resource that becomes excavated.
I think I agree with you there. Yeah.
I want to ask you what grandmother's heart is.
Robai Shin. Oh, that's where you saw the word ferocity. It was there.
That's there.
Very fierce grace, as the title went for Ram Dass's film. It's like a fierce seeing, knowing that you don't know, full presence, unprescribed appropriate response. It's all of those things. Knowing that things just are and not trying to make them something else. Full acceptance. These are all facets of Robai Shin, grandmother's heart. I wonder if I could find it in the book and read it to you. Should I look and see if I can?
I bet you could. I have the book pulled up.
I have
and I think it sounds sweeter in your voice.
I have a hard copy here on the altar that I'm going to grab, and let's see if we can find it.
So while we're here, take a few deep breaths through your whole body, everybody, just like you did on the entry. And as you exhale, just let go like you're setting down a heavy burden from every cell. This excerpt that Elena is going to read is more than just words. So the more you soften the body, you can just soften the soles of your feet, palms of your hands, like you're opening imaginary fists with your mind. And just keep inhaling in deeply and sweetly and letting go through the whole body like you're setting down a heavy burden as you exhale. And keep practicing for the rest of your life. Because there's no other work to do. You want to excavate love? Well, relaxing in deeply into the body and breathing slowly and deeply. Those are the two things that I've seen that always are important, indispensable.
I found it.
Yay. Okay.
It's chapter 5. Grandmother's heart, a fierce heart of tender listening. Grandmother's heart is a cultivation in certain circles of Zen that carries equal measures of humility and compassionate presence. This heart is apparent in our choice to turn toward suffering, toward the difficult, and stay rooted in the ground of our being. Grandmother's heart trusts that we have the capacity to be present with whatever is happening, particularly in times of trouble. This heart is the energy at the source of our love, our practice, and our lives. When I consider the effect of this construct on my life, snapshots arise in my mind. The plush green grass in my childhood front yard, the yellow lines unfurling under my bike's front wheel on neighborhood streets, wintry Cornell University campus, sideways snowfall, trudging to class in the trees, the bustling streets of New York City, the pavement beneath my feet, art classes, especially bookbinding class at Cooper Union with my best friend, countless yoga classes the world over, both as student and teacher, our tiny secret wedding under the tree in Audubon Park in New Orleans, our son being handed to me after I gave birth, the way my heart was broken and remade. Yeah.
The way my heart was broken and remade. And is that
Again,
not life?
ugh,
Allow the breaking and trust the remaking.
that's right.
Ooh. Allow the breaking and trust the remaking.
Yeah.
And without practice, I don't see that happening very fluidly for anybody. Like there are certain traditions where I see practice is not emphasized. It's more like, and it's usually a male teacher pointing out instructions for non-dual awareness or something like this. But where I see the most growth is in traditions that emphasize practice.
I mean, my mom didn't have much of a practice. And when she was about to die, I got mercifully left alone with her. And I just wanted to tell her it was going to be okay, that she could let go. Her body was starting to fail. And I could just feel she was struggling, fighting. So I got up. I've told the story before. I don't know if I told you, but I got up on top of the hospital bed and I sort of knelt to her right. And weirdly, I don't know what possessed me, but I used my hands gently to lift her eyelids up so that I could see her eyeballs. So weird. And so I could tell her that everything was going to be okay and that we were going to be okay and that the boys, her grandsons, were going to be okay and her girls, her daughters were going to be okay and that it was okay for her to go. And I could feel this very palpable release. Her eyes were crazy scared and then they slowly kind of settled down. And I know she heard me. She came to one of my other dearest friends in a dream 2 days later and said, I heard every word she said. So I know she heard me. But I think that too, both her fear without practice and my urge to help her feel safe is an important part of this conversation here, because if we don't have a practice, death will be so scary. But if we do, and we've been practicing for it for a number of decades even, or even just years, or even just weeks prior, I found in hospice watching people who finally open up to, some minister or reverend or chaplain. They say, okay, tell me what I need to know. I'm out of here in a few days. I can feel it. When they open up to it, it's just so beautiful to see somebody receive the truth of letting go of the body as not a thing to be feared, not some sort of giant, awful fight, but just a release. I watched it with James's mom when she did medical assistance in dying. So beautiful, so brave. Took her months to come to it, but she finally did. There was a combination of vanity and total discomfort in her body. It was starting to really get weird, and she wasn't willing to go through that any further. She was awesome. She ordered a tea, so I served her and her friends tea. And then she took the medicine, the concoction that would end her organic life. And she laid back and we turned on the Neil version, Neill. You can find it on Spotify, of the Heart Sutra. Super beautiful. Good friend of mine turned it on, and her last words, she had already drank the medicine. She was sort of laying back in the hospital bed, and we were all around her bed. And her last words were, "Is this the Heart Sutra?" How auspicious. It doesn't get more auspicious than that. And that was the end. She died a few minutes later, maybe 20 minutes later.
Wow.
But she took it on. She took the practice on. She did what we're talking about, which is, she really decided to learn what it would mean to let go of the body. And she did. She even had the foresight to do a couple of medical, with a doctor and a nurse present, ketamine journeys to practice dying. Like, she was very clear about it. And she was very scared, but she did it.
I'm right back in hospice with my mom on the last day. And I don't know a ton about her practice life. I know I introduced her to many things. I know I sent her many books. I know she would say when she wasn't mad at me about something, because we'd have these power dynamics, right?
Yeah.
I know you never had those with your mom.
No.
Knock them down, drag them out, fights. I'm right. But she would say to me, "Oh, I think you were born to be my teacher." I'm like, "Why don't you remember that next time you're arguing with me?"
Right.
Right?
So
No, take the blow, Scott, take the blow. But we're there on the last day. I show up at the hospice house in Rochester, New York, and I check in with the people before I go into her room to find out, just what's happening. I don't want to just barge in. She hasn't said anything or moved really much since last night. I could tell that she probably had taken the Roxanol, maybe more than once, the pain easer, the opiate.
Yep.
And I had the mercy, as you well put it, to get to be alone with her for the day.
Oh, wow.
And I helped ensure that by playing on a Bluetooth speaker mantras so that people wouldn't want to come in. Mostly.
Woo-woo. Not going
Chanted the Guru Gita to her. Had Om Namah Shivaya playing on a loop.
Guru Mai's voice or Baba's voice?
Both.
Great.
Made time for both. And my voice as well. And then, chanted to her some other things. But really it was just clear that day, after the first hour, she held my hand. She didn't say anything. I don't know if she could. I knew she was choosing. She asked me the night before, "When are you flying home again?" And I told her, and I know, talking about James's mom.
Yeah.
Whatever other lifetime she had, she chose when she was going.
She
was like, "I'm not going to stick around after Scott leaves." And I was not going to miss flying home to marry two of my best friends to one another, Greg and Zach.
Right.
There was no way. We'd been preparing it. I wasn't going to let them down and leave them scrambling for somebody at the last minute. It was as related as my mom dying. They were one thing for me. They still are. One happening. And then there was this point later in the day where the nurse said she's showing, and I knew it before she said, she's showing that coloring on her hands and feet. And I could hear the smokestack breath starting.
Yeah.
And I heard her say inside of me, "You need to go eat," my mom. I could hear it. And I was like, she doesn't want me here for this.
Nope.
And within 15 minutes, I got a phone call that she'd passed.
Yeah.
But I know unquestionably that she had the best possible death that she could have and was well prepared.
What a gift that she got to do this on her own terms in a place that's sort of similar, it sounds like, to the place where I work, which is an actual house where there are just a few beds and it's non-for-profit.
Yeah, it was nonprofit, only a few beds. I wouldn't call it exactly her choice. Her choice, and I had to really work with her on it, was that I and her side of the family would come take turns taking care of her at her own house. And I had to be firm and loving and really get her like what she wanted and really show her that I got what she wanted and say, I'm honestly, and so are your sisters, terrified that if something happened, we wouldn't be able to live with ourselves if we messed something up or dropped you trying to wash you or something like this. And nobody feels safe trying to care for you at home.
Right.
So would you be willing? And then she, much to her whole life, she said, Scott, I'm the kind of person that I might not like what you have to tell me, but I want to know the truth no matter what it is. And it may take me a minute, but once I get my head around it, I'm there. And she did it.
Good for her.
She did it while watching Hallmark movies back to back.
Dude, that's where it's at. It's really funny.
This seems like a good wrapping up moment. And I thank you from all the depths of my being to share this time together. I love when we get to be together in any way.
Such a gift. Such a gift, really, truly.
And I very much look forward to and hope it works out to have you back before the lunch of Hold Nothing.
Well, yeah, that's actually a very generous and good idea if you're willing.
I'm 100% willing.
Cool.
100% willing. How this got birthed is there were so many times over the years, and I know I said it to you, where I'm talking to one of our friends on the phone. I'm like, you, Nikki Costello, whoever. I'm like, we should be recording this so other people could listen.
Totally.
And then here it is.
Here it is. It's really exactly how a phone call would have gone.
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much. I got the luxury of getting to look at you here. Some of you are listening. If you want to watch, you can always go to YouTube and see the video versions of these. And I invite us all to just end by taking 10 seconds or so, if you want to sit longer, and just be here doing nothing together. Loving the episode? Click to follow, like, and share it as widely as possible. Want to go deeper with the choice to grow? Explore the show notes. You'll find links there for going deeper with our guests, as well as how to work with me in the work of waking up, growing up, cleaning up, and showing up. Thanks for listening. Can't wait to join you in the next episode.